Hey guys, welcome back to Telltale. I'm Emily,
I'm Greg.
and we are going to be talking about the short story by Mary Shelley, The Transformation.
Yes, and this video is going up on YouTube on her birthday. I forget the exact date.
Mm-hmm.
It's in September,
Mm-hmm.
but I am putting this up for Mary to celebrate Mary Shelley's birthday. So the premiere date of this video is Mary Shelley's birthday.
Yay!
And this is a fairly early work. Her first work was Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wrote a novel and she wrote a couple other short stories and then she published this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look up when this was published. And I don't think you had a physical copy. I don't either.
No, I found mine on Project Gutenberg in Tales and Stories of Mary Shelley.
Okay. And I've got an ebook from Delphi Classics,
Okay.
which they do the complete works of an author for $2.99.
Nice.
There are some typos, which is
Mhm.
annoying, but for $2.99 and you get everything they ever wrote.
Mm-hmm. That's not
Um,
bad.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good, especially for stuff that's harder to find. You can
Mhm.
find it in these Delphi Classics things.
That's really nice.
Yeah. But of course, this is public domain stories, so it doesn't cost them anything to buy rights.
Yeah.
Not for somebody that's been dead for 200 years. And here's Mary Shelley. And there it is.
Down
This
yonder.
was her 14th published work. It was published in a magazine called The Keepsake in 1830. So about 9-10 years after the first version of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Synopsis.
Synopsis. This gentleman, whose name escapes me now, which is sad because I just finished reading it this morning.
Yeah, I didn't note the name down.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's mentioned in the beginning and then never mentioned again.
Right.
But basically, oh no, it's like Goya?
Okay.
Gioia? I can't remember. Anyway, some foreign sounding name.
Mhm.
But it starts with him as a young man and a young lady is kind of the ward of his family. And so it starts kind of as a romance where these two young kids like make a pact to someday marry each other and blah 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 and all that stuff. And then the young man's father dies. He becomes the ward of her side of another man who is like loves these two kids like his own anyways, like a godfather of some kind. And so as this young man grows up, he starts kind of doing a prodigal son thing where he's given an inheritance from his father and he decides he wants all the biggest and best things and wants to do world traveling and stuff before he settles down with Juliet, who is the young lady that he made this pact with when they were young, to marry. And he just starts getting himself in trouble for over a good time. Like he's gambling his debts away and he's just traveling a lot and being very lavish and excessive with the way he travels and what he does and makes a lot of friends in low places along the way and that kind of thing. So then one day he comes back to claim Juliet as his bride, but also as kind of a prodigal son, hoping he can like lean on, the oh my daddy died kind of thing on with his godfather, and his godfather keeps like lovingly accepting him back into their lives, but he's just like, you gotta change your ways, man. Like, you can't keep doing this. This is not a sustainable lifestyle. You can't have a wife doing this. So he basically says, you can't marry Juliet at all. And so he keeps trying to kidnap Juliet then. And then he gets exiled from his community because they're just like, you keep doing bad things and you keep trying to kidnap her and you have nothing to show for it. You are not an upstanding man. Like, we care about you and want you to change your ways, but until you do, you need to leave. So he gets banished, and he's woefully mourning this process on a beach, and he witnesses a shipwreck. And from the shipwreck, a man, if you could call it that, ends up floating to shore on a treasure chest, and he finds out that this man, who is extremely disfigured, is also a magician and caused the storm so that he could get out of the situation he was on the ship, which is vague and weird, and you don't really get a lot of information. But the magician makes him an offer after hearing
wolves
his...
and a guy that eats things. Like, no, wait a minute, that's wrong. But...
yeah. So he makes... The magician turns to him after hearing his story and goes, if I could borrow your body and we switch bodies for 3 days, I will be able to give you this chest of gold and you can have your life back and start over with this girl. And so the guy weighs the options, because, like, if I had the gold, then I could win the girl, and then I wouldn't have any more problems, and, like, I'd have something to show for it and something to offer her, and I could change my ways, and blah, blah, blah. Basically getting a second chance. So he agrees. The 3rd day comes, and the magician does not come back with his body. And he's terribly disfigured monstrosity, but he's like, I gotta go figure out where he is, and I bet you anything he's wooing Juliet and trying to, like, dupe her into marrying him, posing as me. Like, this guy's totally catfishing me. So he goes and he goes through the community and he realizes there's a wedding coming up, and it's actually his body, the magician in his body, and Juliet. And he's like, fuck. So then he's like, I got a dagger, I'm gonna do some shit about it. And so he goes and he finds the guy, and they end up in this squabble, and he realizes, like, Juliet is witnessing it, so he's like, I'm a monstrosity, she thinks that guy's me, I might as well just kill myself and this guy at the same time. So he basically throws himself on the sword of him, the magician, in his body, and then stabs the magician, like, in the side, so that they're both mortally wounded.
Yeah.
And then... spoil it? I should spoil it. It's old.
200 years old.
Yeah. Alright, so then he wakes up and he's in his body again. And he's like the raving lunatic on the bed saying, the guy stole my body and he was doing this and blah blah blah. And he's in a fever dream because he was very, very dangerously wounded by himself. And but he calms down, he heals, everything works out, he and Juliet end up together. And so he sit there speculating on whether he... Like, the end of the story is basically him speculating on whether the spirit, this magician, was actually a good person, trying to help him change his life, or if it was a bad guy who was going to just steal his life. But how it changed him, and how he realized the value of who he was, and the value of his actions, and why he was wrong for the things that he did, and all that stuff. It just gave him a whole new outlook on life, and helped him change. And that's how the story ends. Happily ever after, the end.
Yeah. And the moral of the story, of course, is that if you're not rich and beautiful, you're not going to get anybody.
Fucked. Yeah, you're not rich and beautiful, you're fucked. Oh well. But that is, in that time too, it speaks volumes of the time as well. Like, that is really, like, he was a handsome man, he was wealthy, he just made some bad choices, but he was still a good person because he was beautiful and wealthy. Why wouldn't he be still a good person?
Well, I don't view it as him being a good person, because, I mean, while this magician was trying to fix his life, he was sitting there stewing, getting all jealous and anxious and in a rage about it. You know, because it wasn't really him. Well, you know, it wasn't really him because he screwed up his life, and the magician is stepping in and fixing it
the guy
for him.
Stealing your identity to save your credit score.
And the 3 days weren't totally up. It was just, it was the 3rd day, and he just couldn't be a little more patient and get his life back and have everything fixed. I mean, if he would have just kept his mouth shut and sat on his hands, he would have gotten everything he wanted.
Oh, would he have? We don't know. But what I do think actually was the pivotal point that actually proved that he did change and he did become a good person and realize what he did, was he never went back for the chest of gold.
Yeah.
And that to me was the pivotal moment where he let go of this concept of stuff and realized his life and Juliet's life together was the real treasure.
Yeah.
And him being a good person in order to earn what he deserved. You know, earn what he deserved in this case was the ultimate treasure.
Yeah.
So that to me does say that there actually was a change in him. It wasn't one of those stories where you wonder, is he just the morally great person who just happened to, by aggression, win, so to speak. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good story. It was interesting. It's not like the most fantastic thing I ever read. Like, it was good.
I saw a lot of parallels with Frankenstein.
I did too, yes, but it also wasn't Frankenstein.
No, it wasn't
know?
a whole novel,
Mhm.
and it wasn't,
Wasn't
you know, it was
as
a little
good
more
in
to
my-
the
yeah.
point, and it introduced this whole magician thing, which
Mhm.
wasn't in Frankenstein. I found that interesting.
Yeah, to have that fantasy aspect a little bit.
Yeah, to have that come into it really made this. You know, it wasn't a science fiction; it was fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and it of course was a wish fantasy, kind of a
Mhm.
pact with the devil type of fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
but with a twist.
Yeah.
At a time when there weren't many, you know, aside from Faust, there weren't many packed with the devil stories yet.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think she did a great job with this story.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Yeah,
Top tail, but still definitely worth checking out.
and it's a
If you
fun
like
short
Frankenstein,
read.
yeah.
Yeah, it's short, so it doesn't take a lot of your time, but it gives you a lot for a short story, which
Yeah.
is what we love in a short story, something that gives you a lot with a little.
Mm-hmm.
So it was worth a read for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I thought it was interesting too that like it speaks so much to humanity
Mm-hmm.
in that he had so many wise people telling him what was right, and it was his own pride getting in his way.
Yeah.
And his own obsession with stuff. Really, that's what it was. He was obsessed with stuff and accumulating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in turn, his stuff owned him, and then he had to get rid of the rest of his stuff in order to be able to maintain a certain persona of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that was just so interesting to me how, like, it's almost a morality story of consumerism, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, it also tells me that humans don't really change that much.
No.
We're
not
still a story
that
of
quickly.
consumerism and
Mhm.
how it can be good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was just a really well done piece.
Mm-hmm. So before we end this, I've got a rant.
Rant!
Check this out. Brand new book.
Why? It's all bended.
I like Joyce Carol Oates, and she just released this collection of short stories, Zero Summon, and I did get an advanced reader copy from NetGalley, and I didn't finish it, but the stories I read were really, really great. And so I wanted a copy of the hardcover as soon as it came out, so I ordered it from Amazon. Big mistake.
Never vote. Yeah.
Here's the reason. Amazon put it in a box, no plastic bag or anything around the book, just the book inside of a cardboard box, and shipped it to me.
And the rain. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
It was set on my porch.
It's
Now
so much
you have to understand,
rain.
my porch it's across the entire front of my house. It's pretty deep up to the front door, and it has a roof over the whole porch. So if you set something by my front door on the porch, there's no way, unless the rain is coming sideways, there's no way that it's going to get wet.
Mm-hmm. They didn't.
But the delivery person from Amazon that dropped it off set it on the edge of the porch up by the steps leading up to the porch, so that when a rainstorm came through during the day and poured on it, the box got totally soaked. The book inside, I think, didn't get totally soaked, but it got wet enough. It still feels a little
warped.
damped after a couple days, and it's warped all to hell.
Yeah, it really is. That's pretty bad warping.
Okay,
How is the...
all of you who want to sell books, that's not the way to treat your customers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good way to lose customers and have people go online, and here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to just, I didn't see where I could report anything just looking at
Mm-hmm.
my purchase on Amazon's website.
Mm-hmm.
So
Other than in-
but I did see where I could leave a review. So I clicked to leave a review, and I put in there how much I hated the way Amazon shipped this book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they didn't put it in plastic because, number one, plastic isn't environmentally friendly, and number two, by saving a penny a package with all the stuff they ship, it probably means $1 million cost savings to them to do this. But for me, it's I think a $26 loss
Mm-hmm.
of a book that I'm collecting these things. That is not going in my collection.
Yeah.
So I'm returning it for my money back. So in the end, they lose all their money.
Yeah.
So did they
But then
really
you're out
say...
more because now Amazon does that thing where you have to pay for returns.
No, they have free returns. I just have to drop it off at Kohl's department store.
Oh, okay. Because we had to return some stuff from work, and they make you pay for our they made us pay for our returns.
Oh boy,
They've started doing that.
that's
now.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, if it's damaged merchandise, you should be able to return for free. And
Did they give
this
you a
one-
return label?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, it's not a label. All I have to do. I don't even have to take the packaging. I just have to take this and drop it off at Kohl's, and they handle everything.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's decent.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shipped pretty quickly. It only
Mhm.
took a couple days for this to get to me. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, the day it arrived, we had rain.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the delivery person couldn't take 2 more steps forward and put it
put
where
it
it
on-
wouldn't get
yeah.
rained on.
Yeah. That's my biggest
And
thing
so it's
too.
just
When I
destroyed.
ship stuff, I like if I don't have plastic, which I almost always do. I almost always have bubble wrap for things, and I'll
Yeah.
try and like wrap it in bubble wrap or something, or like put it in a Ziploc with some tape at the top. It's not hard.
For us, I keep a whole
Mhm.
roll of bubble wrap that I
Yeah,
get from
and you
Office
just
Depot, and I just
Wrap it
put
nice.
around, not a huge amount. I just wrap it so that it's all the way around, and
Mhm.
I tape it. And that's all the plastic I do. The
Yeah,
rest is in a
You
plastic
don't
in
need
a
to do a
cardboard
ton.
box.
Yeah.
And we have not had one complaint about the way I package books.
Wonderful.
Now I get other books that they're mummified. In
Yeah,
plastic,
they're not just wrapped in plastic,
then
they're
taped,
wrapped in packing tape
And then
too.
there's the box.
And then you're like
they
afraid to
take-
cut it open.
And then they
because
take tape and mummify the box with tape.
it's like,
And I look at
for
these
international
things,
shipping, I understand.
maybe, but I mean, so far we haven't had one complaint about
Mhm.
the way that I do it, and I'm not over packaging. I'm not,
Yeah.
contributing a huge amount to
Mhm.
the destruction of the environment from waste packaging.
Yeah, and a lot of the
So-
stuff too, you just reuse what you get from other packages.
True.
You're not adding
Yeah,
more
well,
problems.
Amazon wouldn't do that
No,
because they're
no.
too big.
But for small businesses and stuff, if you are a seller, just be thoughtful.
yeah, and everybody selling books, including Amazon, that little extra cost for that plastic bag around a book, for the happiness of your customer and the fact that the book won't be coming back to you like this, all damaged and warped,
That is sad.
it's worth it. It's worth the expense.
Mhm.
Spend the money and do it. And if you have to add that extra penny onto every sale, do
Go
it.
for it. It's worth it. Your customers will appreciate it, even if they have to help pay for it.
Mhm.
We want our stuff to be arriving in good condition,
'Cause-
especially for collectors.
I wouldn't even buy something like this from St. Vincent de Paul or Goodwill. This is just
Yeah.
destroyed.
Not for a book that's that new, anyway.
Yeah, it's just
If it was an 1800s book and it was in rough condition, I might keep it for me. I wouldn't sell it though.
we would never sell that
No.
on our Etsy store.
No.
Absolutely not. Nothing in that bad a condition. If we couldn't save it, we would trash it.
Mm-hmm. I do have one thing in there that has some tearing, but the illustrations are so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, that's a beautiful book. Otherwise. And we
Yeah.
at least inform you if we feel like there's any damage on the item. We actually have a review on our thing that says, the damage was not as bad as they described. And I was like, thank you. Actually, that's good. I would
I remember
rather
that
be
one, yeah.
overly cautious
Mm-hmm.
and tell you if there's something that looks like some things do because they're old. They have some fading and is a little water damaged or something from whatever.
Yeah.
Or like the
And-
pages are yellowing.
And I generally prefer to
Mhm.
put nicer
Yes.
copies
When
of
we
books
started
on our
out, we
store.
had some pieces
you know.
that were not as up to par, but now
Yeah.
we're being a lot pickier about what we have.
But
on
there
there,
are some things where the book, I feel, is just interesting enough that even though it's kind of rough, it's worth somebody reading.
Mm-hmm. As
and
long
worth
as it's
putting out
readable
there.
condition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel too.
Mm-hmm.
And rant.
Yeah, that's enough.
All right, we'll stop trashing people.
And somebody just put up a comment. Oh, Michael Vaughn just commented, another great video. Always love to hear you talk Lovecraft.
Wonderful.
Because just this morning I put up a Lovecraft video about Nyarlathotep.
Yes, thank you, Michael. We appreciate
Yes.
you. We appreciate you all. So thanks for
Yes.
joining us, guys. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know the conditions of some of the books you've gotten. Let us know how you love Mary Shelley, or if you hate
love
Mary
horror
Shelley.
stories.
Horror stories of all kinds. Your story is valuable. Vent all you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.